and welcome back to the Tent of Abraham. I'm Tamir Kreisman from Jerusalem, Israel, and we continue with the Ramchal's The Governance of Time. This one is the Great Day of Judgment and the Destruction of the World. So up until now, the completion of the sixth millennia, the unity is revealed over time, and all the governances thereof. At the end of the sixth millennia, the unity will be revealed in all its aspects, and then all the worlds will be rectified. From the world of action, asiyah, formation, yetzirah, creation, b'riyah, and emanation, atzilut. Once this happens, from that point on begins the world to come, olam haba. Now, this is not a renewal of the world just yet, but rather a breakdown in the rules by which the world had been governed thus far, as the Ramchal says in his Book of Rules. And so, in the seventh millennia, the world has not yet been renewed. The body does not change its ways, but rather the Holy One, blessed be He, will give wings to the righteous, who hover over the face of the water, and the holiness of the soul will outweigh the heaviness of the material, so that the righteous will not be dependent upon physical bodily needs, though reality has not yet been renewed. So you're going to notice what we're going to do here from this point on. This class really focuses on, like we said, the Great Day of Judgment. This is the turnover point from the end of the 6,000 years as we enter into the 7,000th year and 7th millennia. And then we're going to basically, everything is kind of going to be fused together, ascending higher and higher. Okay, so this is how these classes are going to go until the end of the series. Now, if you happen to catch the first teaching of Calling All Jews, you could look that up. The first one, a plea, I believe you'll recall that this is what Rabbi Avraham Azulai spoke about, that those who remain in the land of Israel throughout the troubles, meaning when Mashiach comes and everything is over, those who chose to be here beforehand, will be renewed with wings and spiritual inclined bodies. This is not the case for the Jews who chose to remain outside the land of Israel for convenience sake. Please watch that class if you are a Jew and you're choosing not to be in the land of Israel right now. Not those who cannot come here. I'm talking about those who choose not to come here. From the 7th millennia onward, there will be revealed the governance of primordial man, which is the governance of eternity. Also, we're going to be dropping a lot of concepts over here, and as the classes go on, I will actually break down what they are, so you'll get a better understanding. Again, this whole series, you can't just watch a class and be like, oh, I get it. No, everything is built on top of the other. There are not that many classes, so I would advise you to keep up. So again, before we move on, again, I'd like to state that there are many deep concepts here, okay, which we can spend many classes just explaining what they are, but that is not the focus of this series, okay? This is a compilation of many of the Ramchal's books, as you can see. It's not just from one book. So I'll give extremely short explanations just so you don't lose your bearings. Every aspect of creation begins with a thought. Right? Today, if you want to do something, before you do it, you have to actually think about it, right? Where does this come from? And so God thinking about creating this reality is called the world of emanation, atzilut, where the thought of reality has emanated from. The next world that was created is the world of creation, hence creation, right? Genesis 1, where God created something from nothing. There was nothing there, and now there is. To oversimplify this world, think of it as the creation of the raw material. And just like a sculptor envisioning what would be created, once they have that material, they then proceed to form the desired outcome from said material, and this is the world of formation. Lastly, we have the world of action, specifically called asiyah, to do, la'asot, as in Genesis 2:3, and God blessed the seventh day, and he hallowed it, for thereon he abstained from all his work that God created to do. Asher bara Elohim la'asot. The purpose of creation is to do things. Action, not just sit back and believe. Work. There's work to do, as we saw with Adam in the Garden of Eden and everything since. The entire purpose of creation was to do as in action. Each one of these worlds is represented by the 10 Sfirot, which begins with Keter, crown, on the top, going to Chokhmah, wisdom, male, to Binah, understanding, female, and then to the 7 lower attributes of Chesed, loving kindness, Gevurah, judgment, Tiferet, splendor, Netzach, eternal, Hod, regal, royal, Hod ve'adar, Yesod, foundation, and Malchut, kingship. Okay, we'll get into this a little bit later. And they are represented by 7 of our greats: Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, Moses, Aaron, Joseph, and David. These are the 7 lower Sfirot, who become the living embodiment of these attributes in the world, thereby connecting all the world together to become the desired outcome, which is singularity. That's our desired outcome. That's the point of all of this. And so, above the 4th world of emanation is the world of Akudim. I don't even want to get too much into this. This is just one of the ways that they call it, which is represented by the mouth. Okay, we're talking about the face of primordial man. So you have the mouth, the nose, the eyes, and then you have the hairs on the head, the skull. So in the 7th millennia, there will still be the physical body, but it will be governed by light, which is the soul. Today, though we are a soul with a body, it is our physical being that dictates what we do, not by choice, but by necessity. Meaning, we get hungry, therefore we must eat. If you don't feed your body, you will die, right? If you don't breathe, you will die. We get tired, therefore we must sleep. If you don't sleep, you will literally die. Not, but okay. We must brace for the elements. So there are clothes, there are houses, right? Shelter. You get the idea. Now, during this time, our natural physical shortcomings, if you will be governed by the spiritual aspect. This is as we begin to shift. They'll be governed by the spiritual aspect, and so they will have little to no effect on us. So, as we gather, the 6,000 years is the world of doing, Asiyah. And now in the 7th, what's in the 7th? We are in the next world, the world to come. Towards the end of the 6th millennia, where we're at, that is called the hallway or passageway to the world to come, which we will all have to go through, which includes Mashiach, the temple, the destruction of the nations, Gog and Magog, the resurrection of the dead, and the great and terrible day of the Lord, the day of judgment. All these things still have to take place in a very short period of time. And then we move on to the governance of eternity. Before we get to that, though, as Ramchal states in his book, 138 Openings of Wisdom, the great day of judgment. In it, all the events of the world, everything that happened from creation up until that point, will be laid out and placed in accordance to their time. We're actually going to see the sequence of events. This caused this, this caused this, this caused this, this did this, and so on and so forth. Everyone, there will be complete and utter knowledge of this. Everything at once, right? From all according to their time, from the beginning of the world until its very end. According to this, there will be a perfection and completion all within the knowledge of God. When you know something, you don't need to believe it because you know it. And according to this perfection, eternity will be established forever and ever to no end or beginning. In other words, once this fusion and this changing over happens, that's when we start entering into the track of eternity, which we will learn about in the upcoming classes. So you see, the moment you join the eternal, though you think you might have a beginning, you will truly be able to understand the meaning of eternal, which now, this is something that human beings cannot comprehend. Eternity. Okay, sure. Now, as we said, everything in creation has a process, from creation itself to the revelation of the light. And so naturally, from the time we go from the world as we know it, which is the 6,000 years, to the world of recompense, this is the world to come, where we see the rewards of our labor. Everything that you have done, good or bad, it will be brought, like the end of Kohelet, the end of Ecclesiastes. Everything is going to be brought, everything that you did, right? There must by default be a process of sorts, like a progression. Everything has stages. It never happens at once. Now think about it. You can just suddenly flip from the you can't just suddenly flip from the governance of time as we know it to the concept of eternity. Nobody would be like, we're not even built for that. Reality isn't ready for that flip instantly. What do you think has been happening over the course of 6,000 years? And then going into that more spiritual rather than physical, even there has to be a change, slowly but surely, a maturity. That is the great day of judgment. This is where everything flips, okay? Which happens at the end of the 6th millennia, after the resurrection of the dead. As the Ramchal says in his book, Ma'amar HaYikarim, which was written in the later years of his life, as he says, behold, the supernal wisdom has limited God, right? Has limited 6,000 years for the toils of man and their efforts towards the truth. Emet, right? Titen emet leYaakov. God gave the emet, the truth, to Jacob, Israel. So that's what's up. And then will the world be renewed in a different form in its 8th millennia, which is but another step towards the following reality, which we will discuss in later classes, as we said, and that is the eternal bliss for those who merit it. And before the 6,000 years are done, the chosen nation, Israel, must stand in its fullness. Israel has to be complete, so that they may then carry these things, Torah, towards eternity, which is what we have been promised regardless. And the means by which this will happen will be from the seed of David. That's right, who will be chosen by the Lord, blessed be he, and who will help him to succeed in this task. And that is, you guessed it, King Mashiach, right? Mashiach, and remember, the unfortunately today, Jews get their idea of Mashiach from the Christian world. The Christian idea of Mashiach has nothing to do with Judaism at all. Nothing to do with the Torah or the Nevi'im or the Ketuvim or our writings. Nothing at all. That idea does not exist. Remember, it is God who will be king over all the earth. Zechariah 14:6, right? Vayashem lemelech al kol haaretz. God is king. King Mashiach has a function, but God is going to be crowned king. The function of Mashiach, as we have said in so many classes over the last few years, the ultimate function of Mashiach is to disappear. Everybody in Israel needs to do their job, and he is like a roadmap. He goes to God this way, not through me, dude, that way. He's going to gather everybody up, bring us all together, complete the final tikkunim, and onward to God. The soul of Mashiach is embedded in each and every one of Israel. That's why we're all connected. So once it's activated, we all kind of come together with it. That's called Knesset Israel, connected to the actual soul of David, as in the son of David, as in Melech HaMashiach. That is a function of Mashiach. We don't worship Mashiach. We don't bow down to Mashiach. We don't bring Mashiach offerings. We don't do this because he is a man, right? We do it to God. God is king. That's it. Okay. I could do classes and classes about this, and hey, you know what? Maybe I will. Okay, so like we said, we got King Mashiach for the final rectification of this reality. Though all life must die and return to dust for at least 1 hour before the resurrection of the dead, and then they will return and live, those who are worthy to be resurrected. This is a Ramchal saying. Now, mind you, this hour is more than 1 human hour, because our flesh must actually return to dust. Now, it's the only way to rise. You need this. Like, all this actually has to happen, as God told Adam in Genesis 3:19. This must happen, okay? With the sweat of your brow you shall eat bread until you return to the ground, for you were taken therefrom. For dust you are, and to dust you will return. Not only now, not only in our brief life cycles, but actually in the end of days. Everyone has to die in order for there to be a resurrection of the dead. From there, you will return to me. And so, I'm just speculating here. We're not talking about an hour according to man, but according to God. If 1 day to God is 1,000 years for man, then 1 hour of a 24-hour day should be 41.6 years, which means that the latest this death for the sake of the resurrection has to take place. The absolute latest time is in 172.4 years from today. That's the latest, okay? In other words, it could happen any day. We're expecting Mashiach today. Hey, soon, God willing. Just a fun thought. Okay. The reason this must take place, as the Ramchal states in his book, The Secrets of the Ramchal, you see this whole thing is one big compilation, is that the soul must shed itself of the body to remove itself from the earthly garments. The body is limiting to the soul, but without the body, the soul cannot exist in this world. Since the body is made of dust, which causes ugliness to the soul, if you will, right? It's physical and spiritual. The soul must have a measure of sorrow in order to cleanse it. And that is the secret of the great day of judgment. It's all for, everything is for our sake. Yes, you should be afraid, but not afraid fear, but rather reverence. Oh my goodness gracious, the creator of all things is going to stand all of his creation over there, and everyone is going to know everything that has happened for everyone individually throughout time. Everything will be revealed. Every single person you have ever known, everything that you have done throughout your entire life and your most personal and private moments, unless you did full tshuva, of course, it will be known publicly. And that is a cleansing. Shame is, in a sense, liberating. And so, in the time of the resurrection of the dead, both righteous and wicked will rise. Everyone rises, right? But the wicked ones are those whose rectification will not be complete at that time, and they will be punished at that time, each according to his rectification. After the resurrection will be the great day of judgment, where the blessed Creator will judge all things, those who are worthy to eternal life and those who are to everlasting shame, as said in Daniel 12:2. And many who sleep in the dust, not dead, sleep in the dust. In other words, this is even death is temporary. Sleep in the dust will awaken, these for eternal life and those for disgrace, for eternal abhorrence. Okay. And so we learn from this that the coming of Mashiach, the resurrection of the dead, and the great day of judgment will take place before the end of the 6,000 years, right? The very end, that's the great day of judgment. But before that, you need the resurrection of the dead. Before the resurrection of the dead, when we all have to be down for a specific amount of time, okay? All the other things have to take place, which we're currently seeing them happen. Prophecy is unfolding. Slower than we would probably like, but on God's time, perfect, because what do we know? And the great day of judgment is the passageway to the next millennia. You cannot avoid that. The only way you can avoid the day of judgment, there's only one way to do it. All the people that genuinely died gave their lives for God's name's sake. They knew they were going to die. They had a choice. They said, no idolatry, no sexual immorality, no bloodshed. I choose death over whatever kind of semblance of life that you are giving me over here, for God's name's sake. Any Jew that is killed because he is a Jew, you understand? The soldiers that went into Gaza to get our hostages out over there, to go fight Amalek and Ishmael over there, and they died, they have no great day of judgment. They are no longer judged. These are the highest souls. They are in the highest realms of heaven because they actually gave their lives for God's name's sake. So these individuals, and throughout time, of course, anyone that was murdered for being a Jew, everyone in the Holocaust, get in there, you Jew. Okay, they don't have to be judged. They're done. Okay, so this is the only category that gets to kind of go around that thing. Okay, and then obviously everything joins together afterwards. So, like we said, the great day of judgment is the passageway to the next millennia, that being the seventh, as the world will see the righteousness of God's judgment throughout creation. Everything is going to be known, as we read in Deuteronomy 4:4. Hatzur tamim poalo, ki kol drachav mishpat, el emunah ve'en avel tzadik ve'yashar hu. The deeds of the mighty rock are perfect, for all his ways are just, mishpat, just. A faithful God, without injustice, he is righteous and upright. So not only is everyone going to see everyone's deeds, and the reason we did all these things, we're all going to see what God did. Everything is going to be open. Nothing will be hidden anymore. So mishpat also, it says mishpat, it translates as just, but it's actually judgment, meaning it doesn't matter who you are. Just because you're a Jew doesn't matter who you are. Okay? God will judge you according to your deeds and your intentions behind those deeds. No one gets a pass, which is why I say again and again and again, if you believe that you do not have work to do, or if you believe that someone did anything else for you, oy vey, you got another thing coming. This is how Noah walked with God, by whose merit the human race was saved. Genesis 6:9. Ele toldot Noach, Noach ish tzadik tamim haya bedorotav. These are the generations of Noah. Noah was a righteous man and he was perfect in his generations. Again, the way they translate it will be different every time. This is how Abraham walked, who unified the name of God throughout the world. Genesis 17:1. ויהי אברהם בן 90 שנה ו9 שנים וירא אדוני אל אברהם ויאמר אליו אני אל שדי התהלך לפניי והיה תמים. And Abram was 99 years old, and God appeared to Abram, and he said to him, I am the Almighty God, I am El Shaddai, walk before me and be tamim, be perfect. So if God is tamim, Noach is tamim. Great. Human race saved because of you. Chosen, Abraham, because of you, right? You are also now tamim. And this is how Jacob was raised and lived as he received the name of God, Yashar El, Israel. And his children became God's children. Genesis 25:27. Vayigdalu hanarim vayhi Esav ish yodei tzayid, ish sadeh, we just read this in this last week's parsha, veYaakov ish tam, yoshev ohalim. A man, Esav was a man of the field, right? Whereas Jacob was an innocent man. It says innocent, perfect, tam, dwelling in tents. Tam yoshev ohalim. Ohalim is also, you flip the letters, you get Elohim. He was a man of God. End of story. Tamim doesn't mean perfect or innocence. It means simple. What do we say about Judah, right? Simple kind of man. Watch that teaching. Now, this is not simple in a bad way. We're not talking about simple Jack over here, right? But in the highest regard of a person who trusts God completely. I don't care what's going on out there. I don't care what the news says. I know who my God is. I don't care about anything. None of this actually matters. And so, God's ways are those of judgment. Hence, the great day of judgment, which no man can escape from. You might be thinking, well, isn't God merciful? Of course, you're breathing, are you not? You have a chance to rectify that which has been wronged, right? Do that. On that day, according to the Ramchal in Dat Tvunot, I don't know how that one is translated into English, the Lord will reveal all of reality before every creature regarding everything that had been done since the Lord created man upon the earth up until that very day. Could you imagine? Talk about a download? Whoa, yeah, that. And the righteousness of his judgment will be known throughout every decree. You're going to... Why did you do this? Why did all those innocent children die? Everything will be known, and we will say, Baruch Hashem, thank you for doing it is all perfect. Hatzul tamim poalo. Ki kol darachav mishpat. So, like we said, everything that God did, everything will be known throughout every decree, act, and deed, from the smallest to the greatest, as everyone got exactly what they had coming to them. And we don't assume, okay, you did this, so you had that. You can't say, well, he did this, therefore he got... We don't know what came before that. We don't know what happened in their previous incarnations. We just don't know. We can learn about things, how to maybe prevent certain things. But at the end of the day, the cheshbon, we will only know on that great day of judgment. But we will, rest assured, everyone will know everything. Everything is going to be known. Okay, so we're going to know exactly what everybody had coming and receive their rightful reward for the times to come. Then the righteous will come forth and receive their reward, every man according to his deeds. We get judged as individuals, the world as individuals, but Israel also gets judged as a nation. Now, the purpose of this day is to remove any doubts that have been in the world over the course of 6,000 years. As the Ramchal writes in Adil B'Marom, behold, the very roots of this day connect with the lack of knowledge or the unknown, which connects the governance of time with the governance of eternity. It's that passageway. Understand this matter well, he says. All that is revealed in this transition as a manner of changing realities will be in the future the new permanent reality. Once everything is known, now we just have full knowledge of everything all the time. You see, we can't comprehend. Wait, so we're going to be a hive mind? This is beyond a hive mind. Don't think, dream bigger, darling, right? This is not a hive mind situation. This is everything. We can't even begin to comprehend what this actually means. Even if we spell it out step by step, it won't compute. We are not built that way just yet. We got to go through things in order to receive this knowledge and understanding. For you have already learned that eternity has been built upon these preparations throughout all time. You can't just I'm eternity right now. Not yet. Things have to take place. And the secret of the great day of judgment, of which it says in Ecclesiastes 12:14, which we just said 2 minutes ago, for every deed God will bring to judgment, for every hidden thing, whether good or bad. This should make everyone very afraid. Very, very afraid, okay? Even the small things that I have to check myself on this. Even the small things that I do that I think that I might be sneaky, not for any insidious type of idea or something like that, but just for anything but complete and utter truth. I have to work on myself. Everything that everything that I say in these teachings, I have to internalize and I have to do my best to live according to that. And I know it's not an easy thing. I'm going through this myself and I'm sharing it with you, to whoever wants to hear. Okay. For then, all the deeds that have ever been done over time shall be spread out in order to receive its own deserved reality. Therefore, the Holy One, blessed be He, will individually judge for everything that has and that was ever done over the course of the 6,000 years since the time of creation. And then will come the seventh millennia to remove the concept and governance of time. That will really get into a next class, right? Which is the secret of it will all be destroyed in 12 hours. What is this? This is written in the Zohar, okay? But not until the great day of judgment. In other words, once the great day of judgment happens, from that point, a new reality starts to sink in, starts to set in. And it is the transition of the governance of all of time itself in order to remove all doubts of what was unknown. That is belief. Once you have knowledge, there is no more unknown. I believe, right? I believe because I don't know. Even if you have really strong faith, belief, but if the moment you know, there's no more belief. You have to understand this concept. So let's explain the line, it will all be destroyed in 12 hours. And the term from which it is derived, because this is a deep Kabbalistic thing, okay? But still, it's not like, I'm not revealing any crazy secrets that you could take it and do anything with it. You might not even understand what I'm about to say right now anyway, but I'm going to say it anyway. So this is called Chad Charuv, literally translated as Chad, Echad, one, Charuv, Lehecharev, Churban Habayit, destroyed, one destruction. But it also refers to one carob tree. A carob is called Charuv. Etz Charuvim is the carob tree. And that was produced for Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai and his son Rabbi Eliezer when they were hiding in the cave for 12 plus 1 years from the Romans. That's why he's the one that writes, it will all be destroyed in 12 hours. Echad means one, Charuv, destroyed, destruction. Okay. And guess what else is in there? which you better believe is relevant. The word cherev, charuv, cherev, sword, as in Genesis 3:24. And he drove out man, and he stationed from the east of the Garden of Eden the cherubim and the blade of the revolving sword to guard the way to the tree of life. Did you get that? No, because I read it in English. So let's read it in Hebrew. Vayigaresh et Adam, sent away man. Vayeshken mikedem legan Eden et hakruvim. He placed the cherubim. V'et lahat hacherev hamitapechet lishmor et derech etz hachaim. You see what I'm saying over here? The term chad charuv can be found all over the Babylonian and Jerusalem Talmud, the Zohar, and many other midrashim, but it leads directly to the Garden of Eden. In other words, long story short, but we're going to get into it. In order to get into the Garden of Eden, something needs to be destroyed. You see? Okay. So, for instance, in Sanhedrin 97a, it says, Rav Katina says, 6,000 years is the duration of the world, and it is in ruins for 1,000 years. Sheshet alafim, in Hebrew, well, actually in Aramaic, it says, Sheit alfei shanei havei alma. Sheit, 6, alfei, 1,000, shanei, shanim, years, havei, heye, will be, alma, olam, world. V'chad charuv, sheit alfei shanei havei alma, v'chad charuv. This is that saying, and it's in Aramaic over there. The duration of the period during which the world is in ruins is derived from a verse, as it is stated, and the Lord alone shall be exalted on that day. Isaiah 2:11. And the day of God lasts 1,000 years, as we know. Abaye says, it is in ruins for 2,000 years. As it is stated, after 2 days he will revive us. In the third day, after 2 days he will revive us. In the third day he will revive us. It's terrible with the English translation. And we shall live in his presence. So here we're talking about also the time that of the destruction. Before we said that it's going to be 1 day. If you want to go 1 day by 1,000 years, it's 41.6 years. This is from Hosea 6:2. Now, it is taught in a Braita in accordance with the opinion of Rav Katina, just as the sabbatical year abrogates debts once in 7 years, the Shnat Shemitah, so too the world abrogates its typical existence for 1,000 years. In other words, for the 7,000th year, for the seventh millennia, it's not going to be anything like the 6 before it. As it is stated, and the Lord alone shall be exalted on that day, and it states a song for the Shabbat day, Mizmor Shir Le'yom HaShabbat, Psalms 92:1, meaning a day, Le'yom, i.e. 1,000 years, that is entirely Shabbat. That is the 7th millennia. And it also says in Psalms 90, verse 4, for 1,000 years are in your eyes like, I don't know why it says yesterday, which passed, and a watch in the night. Ki elef shanim be'enecha keyom. It says keyom etmol, but keyom, yom is 1 day. Etmol is yesterday, like 1 day yesterday, meaning it already passed. But 1,000 years, 1 day. Now the school of Eliyahu taught 6,000 years is the duration of the world. 2,000 of the 6,000 years are characterized by tohu, chaos. We learned about that. 2,000 years are characterized by Torah. From the era of the patriarchs until the end of the Mishnaic period, when they wrote down the Mishnah, and 2,000 years are the period of the coming of Mashiach, right? Like we said, I believe it was last class. From this, we can see the general consensus and understanding of the timelines over here. It's kind of been laid out for us. But there are actually 4 main opinions of how to look at this term, one destroyed. Don't worry, we'll get to it. As taken from all the sources and their interpretations by our sages. There's 4 opinions. Let's see what actually fits. 1, that the world and that the destruction of the world is in the 7th millennia, to which all of creation will return to the state of tohu, chaos and void, bringing about a complete reset as it was before creation. We could read the first 2 verses of Genesis 1, right? This will be at the very last moment of the 6th millennia, after everyone is judged, after all creation is judged. Everything is now set. Boom. That's the moment they're talking about, where all of creation, the heavens, the earth, and all its fullness will reach the pinnacle of its created purpose for the 6 days of creation. Therefore, there is no use for it anymore, right? Once it's done, it's done. And it will be destroyed lightly, I say. This is according with the writings of the Ramban part 1 and the Ravad part 8, the ways of repentance. Okay, that's the source for this one. The second opinion, the world will not be destroyed at all, and the meaning of the words of Rav Katina of one destroyed refers to the evil inclination for the spirit of impurity and physical infestation will be burned from the world. This is according to Magid Meisharim for Rabbi Yosef Karo, Parshat Behar. Given this opinion that the world will not be destroyed at all means that in that time, the world is meant only for the righteous who rose from the dust during the time of the resurrection of the dead, as the purpose is to go from oneg leoneg, pleasure to pleasure, elevation to elevation for all of eternity. And within this opinion, there are 2 other opinions of how this would look. The first, that the soul will inhabit a perfected physical body. And the second is that the soul will inhabit a spiritual garment that is holy and pure like the angels. And this is according to Rabbeinu Bachya, also in Parashat Behar. The third opinion. Another opinion is that one destroyed has nothing to do with the 7th millennia, but rather one of the 6,000 years, which experience terrible iniquity, troubles, and shame. Just 1,000 of the 6,000 years. Terrible iniquity, troubles, and shame. And that is, of course, they say, the final millennia, meaning the one that we're in, the one that we're almost done, which is where we are at today. This is according to the Meiri in his preface to Masechet Avot. The understanding of this is that the majority of the one destroyed, there has to be some sort of destruction, is already behind us, he says, since we are here at the end of the 6th. Now, on a strictly observational note, what I see, okay? Because who am I to undermine the Meiri, a great sage from the 11th and 12th centuries? But we have to keep in mind that in Daniel 12:1, it says the following. Now at that time, Michael, the great prince who stands over the children of your people, which is Israel, will be silent, and it will be a time of distress that never was since a nation existed until that time. And at that time, your people will escape everyone who is found inscribed in the book. In other words, this great, terrible calamity, all this destruction, perhaps it still has to happen. Perhaps we pass a lot of it. But this could possibly mean that the most difficult challenges are still to come, are yet to come. Or that within this last millennia, the hardships have actually been spread out in the forms of, let's say, we'll go back 500 years, right? The Spanish Inquisition, the pogroms from 400 to 100 years ago, the Enlightenment movement and Reform Judaism 200 to 150 years ago. Yes, these things are absolute travesties to Israel, to Judaism. We had to call it Judaism because of that. Once upon a time, a Jew was a Jew. Now, what kind of Jew are you? A Reform, conservative, Orthodox, ultra-Orthodox, Hasidic, Dati light, and what have you. See what I'm saying? Once upon a time, a Jew was a Jew. So what this did was it caused a lot of Jews to fall away. You could call it spiritual death, if you will, but they're no longer part of Israel once this happens. In the next generation, forget about it. So yeah, it's on par with the Spanish Inquisition and the Holocaust. Reform Judaism 200 to 150 years ago, the Holocaust, the silent murder of the souls of Israel by the Erev Rav within the modern Zionist state of Israel, the unwillingness of the 10 million Jews throughout the world today to return to the land of Israel, and the assimilation of millions of Jews, as well as October 7th and what have you. You see all these travesties just in the last 500 years, what has happened, all within the last century. And so, even if you just look at the last century alone, last 100 years, compared to our entire history of Jews willing to remove themselves from God for the sake of the world, this is what's been going on in the last century, has never been done on such a scale throughout our entire history, not to mention the numbers we lost along the way. So what has happened to Israel over the last 100 years? Tens and tens of millions. It just keeps happening in many, many different ways. That's the third opinion, with perhaps my observation as to what they were saying. Fourth opinion. Okay, this is a combination between the previous opinion, and that is the world will eventually be destroyed completely, but that will not be in the 7th millennia, but rather on the Jubilee, which is the 50,000th year. As every 7,000 years, the world will be destroyed little by little until the culmination of the 7 weeks as we count the Omer. And in the end, on the 50th thousand year, the world will return to its original form before creation, which is Tohu, chaos and void. This is from Rabbeinu Bachye, Parashat Balotcha, Abarbanel, The Workings of God 7:3. Now, just so you know, when I heard this, don't worry, you're going to feel exactly how I felt when I heard this. There are many who believe that we are only in the second iteration of the 7,000-year cycle. Only the second. But meaning we still have to go through 5 more 7,000-year cycles in order to get to the 50th. So we're not even close. We're still relatively at the beginning. However, Ha'aliyah Kadosh, the Holy Ari from 500 years ago, says, no, this is it. We are in the very last of all the cycles. We don't care whether it's the final of all the 7,000th going into the 50th, or whether it is the end of the 6,000. It doesn't matter because something's about to go down. Okay? So let's sum this up and get an understanding of why we are learning this according to the Ramchal and why his understanding carries so much weight. We did an entire series on the final redemption based on the works of the Ramchal and the Gra, the Vilna Gaon, called The End from the Beginning. The two great sages lived about 250 to 300 years ago, meaning they were almost the last of the greats, with all the works that they did. The Vilna Gaon was on such a high level that he was compared to the era of the Geonim. He was called Gaon. Gaon is a genius in modern day Hebrew, but the Geonim was a period of 1,000 years ago. We know that as the generations progress, the understanding, the wisdom, it drops down and down and down, which is why today anyone could say in confidence we are the dumbest generation to have ever lived. So, but he himself from 250 years ago was compared to the Geonim from 1,000 years ago. And he himself, the Vilna Gaon, expressed high admiration for the works of the Ramchal, who passed away at the young age of 38 or 39, just like the Ari and Rabbi Nachman of Breslov. They all died at age 38 and 39, not reaching their 40, right? They were such high souls with incredible wisdom and knowledge that if they were to have been around at the age of 40, when a man's full potential can start to become unlocked, they may have well been able to bring the redemption during their time. But as we know, there were more things to be corrected, so they were taken from us. Now, most of the ancient opinions of these cycles have been conveyed in the Talmud by the Tanaim who lived before. This is 2,000 years ago, right? During and shortly after the destruction of the Second Temple. So during the Second Temple, that was the greatest age of learning Torah in the history of the world. Okay, these are the Tanaim. when Torah learning and understanding was at its peak. Since the destruction of the Second Temple, you've had incredible minds and high souls here and there, of course, but never as many in one place at one time during the days of like Hillel and Shammai, and then Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai, Rabbi Eliezer Agadol, Pirkei de Rabbi Eliezer, right? And then his student, Rabbi Akiva, and his student, Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. Those were like just the greatest of the greatest of the greats, till this day. The Ramchal is special in the sense that he is a direct link that connects to the Ari from 500 years ago, and the Ari directly connects to Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai from the Zohar almost 2,000 years ago. As the Ramchal completed the tikkunim, the rectifications from the Zohar to this time. There are 70 tikkunim, rectifications of the Zohar. There's the Zohar Chadash, and Tikkunei HaZohar, right? The tikkunim, the rectifications. 70 of them. We know 70. 70 rectifications of the Zohar regarding the first verse in the Torah. That's what it is. Every single tikkun starts with Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'haaretz. And there are 70 rectifications of the Ramchal. And there's a book, Tikkunim LaRamchal. 70 rectifications of the Ramchal regarding the last verse in the Torah. The end, but also the new beginning. They're tied. Like we said, the first word in the Torah is Bereshit. The last word in the Torah is Israel. Bereshit, in the beginning, at first there was Israel. And if you want to read it the other way around, no problem, because Israel was at first. First there was Israel, Israel at first, always, and it's cyclical. So the beginning is the end is the beginning, and soon you're going to see over the upcoming classes, they are all one. So what Rabbi Shimon began, the Ramchal completed. Most of the Ramchal's works were burned, mind you, by the leading Jewish authority in the world at that time for fear of another false messianic following that almost destroyed world Jewry in the form of Shabtai Tzvi. And so, for the sake of peace among brothers, which trumps everything else, he gladly obliged. His works are so high that it was too much for them at the time, and his surviving works that we have today are leaps and bounds beyond anything that we can read over the last 2,000 years. It was almost not of this world, and it scared people because they're like, dude, you're talking about Mashiach and the days of Mashiach and what's supposed to happen. People might think that you're Mashiach. No, he never claimed to be, right? Shabtai Tzvi, he claimed to be. He knew witchcraft, just like the other dude. He had a following, but then once he was pressed and they threatened his life, he converted to Islam conveniently. You see what I'm saying? Okay, another false messiah. That's why they're like, we can't do this right now. So for the sake of our people, most of these incredible things had to be burned. All right. Now, can you even begin to imagine what was taken compared to what we have today? Wow. The point being, the Ramchal had the privilege to look back all the generations of the sages. In other words, we get to learn. All the books that we have 2,000 years ago, they didn't have this many books. I'm sure they had plenty of writings, right? Which we do not have today. But even today, you have the privilege of coming after everybody so you could see what they all wrote and based on what they wrote. So that's exactly what happened with the Ramchal. He got to look at all the generations of sages going back, and he had such well-rounded understanding, not only of what was, but what is to come. He laid everything out for us, one step at a time, according to their stages, giving us an understanding of the timeline going up to the conclusion of the 10th millennia. It is also important to note that when we say, again, people are freaking out, the destruction of the world, that is the world as we know it, and the governance thereof, okay? It's not boom, nothing is here anymore. It changes, it shifts going back to actually what was. Remember, the way it is today, this is not how it used to be. This is a lower form of. We still have to elevate. It is also important to note that it is inevitable. And that is why people will be panicking at this change with as it rapidly increases, and it gets minimal attention because of all the chaos the powers that be are causing. Okay? So everything that's going on today, let it happen. You can't change it. And bugging out isn't going to help you either. So let it happen. We know it's going to happen. We are returning to chaos. This chaos is nothing compared to what it was. The frog gets boiled alive, 1 degree at a time until it's too late to leave. So you have the majority of the world fighting to fix the current situation, right? Okay, now corruption is the new fad of the week. Everybody's corrupt. We knew this. We know this. We've been teaching this. But now, corruption here, corruption there, corruption from the right and from the left, the Democrats and everyone. Yes, everyone is corrupt. Good morning. Welcome to the world. Everyone is corrupt, and people innocently are trying to fix this, right? They're trying to fix the current situation and state of the world, but that only means that they are so inundated within the system of the world that they cannot even see that they are a part of this system. The minority sees the system for what it is, and that is broken. So the only way to change the system is to change reality, which is exactly what we're teaching over here. Not the kind of broken that can be fixed, but the kind of broken that needs to be removed because its time is up. This entire class is centered around the new system, this entire series is centered around a new system of governance that is being fused into our reality, the state that will no longer be part of the world to come. What we need to focus on right now is to align ourselves with this new reality, this new frequency, and the governance of eternity that comes with it. This concept is not something that we have in our capability right now to comprehend. But our souls know, we know, everyone on earth knows. You have this feeling, you know. Those that are more in tune can already see things. You see it, you see patterns, you see what's going on. You know, everybody else is just feeling terrible. That's the difference, right? Now, I'd venture to say that that's why most of you are here with me right now, because you know something is up. You know it and you feel it. Here's the plan. All that being said, we're going to end our class here today. Next week, God willing, we will be fully entering into the 7th millennia and how the world is going to change, as well as answering some open questions and concepts from this class, like the world being destroyed in 12 hours. Why the 12 hours? What is this 12 hours, right? So as always, thank you guys so much for joining me. Have a wonderful rest of the week and have a Shabbat Shalom. And do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button on the video. I appreciate it. Thank you. Bye-bye.